Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low Magazine? Because 4Low Magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on the newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we have Rusty Megois. Rusty is Rusty's Off-Road. Rusty's Off-Road has been around for quite a few years. We'll talk about that with Rusty and where his business has come from and where it's going to in the future. So, Rusty, I want to say thank you very much for coming on board and spending some time. And I know that time is of the essence nowadays, trying to keep everything going because, it's the off-road world and things are busy.
It is quite busy, Rich. I appreciate you and invite me to have a talk with you, and it has taken us a couple times to get this to work out, but glad to be doing it.
Yeah. So let's start right off. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and pretty much raised in probably the suburbs of Birmingham, within a 50-mile loop at times, and pretty much stayed there just about my whole life. Did one little outspurt towards Tennessee, but most everything's been right here close to home.
All right, and so that at that point was pretty rural. If you're outside of the Birmingham city area.
It can. Once you go outside the city limits and, start going out more than probably 10 miles, it starts kind of turning rural after, that pretty quick.
So you got to spend a lot of time outdoors in the woods.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And what was your primary interest as you were growing up?
Well, as a kid, I'm gonna say a real young kid. Of course, I guess every young kid, like you want to play football and do all that. We did that. I did that a good little bit while I was in growing up, and I got arm hurt real bad, and decided that maybe this wasn't what I wanted to do. And I had a neighbor that I showed some interest in going hunting with him. And so he invited me to go with him, and that kind of started fueling a fire of, going out and even being in the outdoors more. And it seemed like, if it was wintertime, I wanted to go out and, tromp through the woods with my gun. And then if it was summertime, I started, I still wasn't driving then, and I was going backpacking in just, the surrounding woods that was around where I lived.
Right. And through school, were you played football, I would imagine, in school then, high school?
I went to junior high. That's when I got hurt, and then after that, I didn't. I kind of just left the sports alone, or the in-school sports. I'm still a big football fan and everything, but like I said, I hurt my right arm really bad, and after that, I said it was just enough's enough.
Right. Makes sense.
And I wasn't a very tall, but I was, 5'9". I wasn't even probably 5'9" in junior high, and a little scrawny kid, and so I had a lot going against me anyhow.
Especially with those Alabama boys.
yeah. They grow them bigger today, I guess. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I just wasn't one of that bunch that got the size and the thickness and everything like they need to play football down here in Alabama.
Right. So the your shop right now is in Rainbow, right outside of Gadsden. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, Rainbow City and Gadsden are basically they're two towns, but you can drive from one and don't even realize you're driving from one to the other. And then you even have a little community called Atala that is all right here together. And we're 40 miles from the Birmingham airport.
Okay. And how did your interest in hiking and hunting and being in the outdoors, how did that turn into off-road?
Well, as you know, wanting to go hunting and everything, of course, and then every kid wants to get his driver's license. And once you get your driver's license, you know, I wanted a truck, a Jeep, you know, something where I could still get in the woods, whether it was just, you know, going up to the local highest point in Alabama, you know, just to go up there and go wheeling, or, you know, to go up there to go hiking, or to go up there and go hunting, or whatever the situation. And so I started off with a 71 Chevy pickup is what I started off with. And, you know, and I learned a lot with that truck, but that's how it all started right there. And that was just to get out and to go more into the outdoors.
Right. And so that 71, that's 72 is when they started the square box, wasn't it? Or was it 70?
73. Yeah, this was the old smooth round fender. You know, I don't really look. I love the body style. I liked it then, and I still like it.
Excellent. So, what was as you were growing up and you're hunting? What was your primary? What were you hunting? What were you hunting for? Was it deer or squirrels? Or?
It was white. Yeah, it was white-tailed deer. Of course, you know, as seasons change, you know, there was rabbit hunting involved, squirrel hunting. And turkey hunting came in the spring, and I just enjoyed it all. I just wanted to be out in the woods. And so, you know, I enjoyed as much as I could. I wasn't the best student in school, so I found myself out in the woods more than I did anything else, where I probably should have been studying. It would have probably made things a lot easier through my business life, but, you know, so, well, you know, but I just rather been at that time. I wanted to be out, you know, just walking through the woods or riding down the dirt road or whatever the situation may be.
So with, you said you know, weren't that great of a student, because you spent more time doing non-student things. I think a lot of us did that. We're distracted, you might say.
Right.
What did you like about school?
Lord, that's a tough question. There wasn't a lot I liked about school. Now that I look back at it now, you know, I had a couple of teachers that were just real pains. That, you know, they pushed me. I didn't know what they were doing back then. I just thought they were mean, you know. But they pushed me, and they pushed me hard. And now that I go back and see that what they were doing actually to me, you know, they were trying to just keep me from just losing all interest. And you know, I see that part, which I think still helps me today. I mean, I try to push my guys here to do more and do better, and I still do that myself every day. And I think that's what they were doing, was, you know, picking me up all the way from my senior year. My senior year, I had a real good relationship with my coach, and I had 3 classes. You'd think, okay, you can at least go to school for 3 classes, and I had senior English and democracy and PE. PE was the last class, and at that time, I had already started the shop, putting the shop together, and I went down there and told him. I said, "This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life," and I says, "I don't need to be at PE. I need to be at work." And he says, I'll take care of it. And so I only went to 2 classes of PE that whole year. Now today, today's world, that's totally different. You couldn't do that. But, he knew exactly what I was wanting to do. My senior English teacher, she knew what I wanted to do, but she had to push me enough to where I would still get some grades. And fortunately, my little sister was a very good student, and so she made a lot of my grades for me. So,
well, you had to pick something up. You've been pretty successful.
Well, like I said, a lot of it was just little things that might not have been about numbers and stuff like that, but it was just like that one thing. I would have never thought that. I mean, I just thought they were mean. She was just a mean old lady. But and I've seen her since maybe 2 times. And I'm probably the first one to go up and hug her neck now.
That's awesome. So you said you're in high school, senior, and you decided to start a shop. That's pretty early. Yes,
it was very early, but even through the high school years, like I said, going off road, I started off my truck with that 71. Started going off road. Of course, I knew how to drive. And I had a little bit of off-road knowledge. I have an uncle that he's passed now, but he was in Florida, and they used to call it boondocking down there in Florida because it was all just swamps and going out on the beach and stuff like that. And he had Scouts and he had Suburbans and stuff like that. So if we went and visited them, we always went out and went wheeling and doing what they like to do. And so I learned some stuff from him, and actually probably one of my best teachers of going four-wheeling was an old man that was a logger that actually didn't even have a four-wheel drive. And he had I don't even know what year truck it was, an old black truck, had a set of big, I think he had 916s all the way around it, and some kind of grip spur tire, and it, and just watching him, talking to him, and learning how to go off road with him, because it was his way of living, and probably learned a lot from him. But I had a bad habit of going a lot by myself, and I would tear stuff up, and I had to figure out how to first get it out of the woods, and then get back home, and then I had to fix it. And I went through a lot of transmissions, and and I think a couple of ring gear and pinions, and just different stuff like that. We just learning. I just built a lot of experience.
And what was the name of your first business?
We started out. We had Birmingham, or off-road Birmingham.
Off-road Birmingham. Okay. And you primarily worked on off-road vehicles then? What kind of work?
We did everything then. Yeah, we did everything from if it was a Chevrolet four-wheel drive and it needed the wheel bearings packed, we did everything from that to suspension kits to wheels and tires, roll bars, if you can believe that. Back in the day, there was roll bars and everything had to have KC daylights on it.
Oh yeah.
And winches and worn winches and just everything for a four-wheel drive. Period. It didn't matter what it was. We did that, and it grew from that.
Okay, so you're working on all sorts of cars and trucks and doing general maintenance and four-wheel drive work, and you started this on your own, or how did it come about?
As far as coming about was being a real good friend of mine. He's still a good friend of mine, and we were basically come together and went in a 2-bay service station and started working our butts off.
Hung your shingle and went for it. Cool.
Yes, sir.
So how did you go from Chevy truck to what was the progress? What was the progression?
Okay. Probably the first, there's been several steps. one of the first things was in the 70s. Of course, the fuel deal hit, and gas jumped drastically. And if you had a Chevy truck or Ford truck or a Dodge truck that got 6 miles a gallon, you didn't drive it very much. And so I ended up actually buying a little Datsun truck because I had about a 45-mile drive, and I ended up buying one of those. And I actually had called Spencer Lowe, that had Lowe Manufacturing out on the West Coast, and he was selling four-wheel drive conversions for these little trucks and still getting 20-something miles a gallon. I said, this is a perfect deal. So we ended up getting set up with him. We started doing those. Spencer ended up becoming a real good friend of mine, and I used to go out there and go racing with him and go to the races with him, and eventually got in the truck some, and I just brought more knowledge that I was acquiring out on the West Coast and from him and people that I would meet and bump into, and bringing it back and doing things here. And then somewhere down that line, probably a little bit of the fabrication. I'd always been, building things, because so much stuff back in the 70s, and getting up to the first age, there wasn't a lot.
Right.
The lifts were limited, and I mean, you had Skyjacker and you had Superlift, and if you wanted to buy, lift kits for just about anything. And as far as for the Jeep industry, it was even more limited, and the only thing that was there was the old square chopped leaf springs that, it'd lift it, but it'd beat you to death at the same time. You didn't know which was worse, the suspension kit or the swamper tires. And,
True enough.
But right, so that started that, and it also gave me a little bit of wanting to start kind of making different parts and stuff. And actually, I just doing that, I got a pretty good reputation of building and fabricating and stuff, doing that type stuff. And then through a lot of the other suspension companies and even bumper companies and everything, had one company that a friend of mine that broke off and started doing a bumper company for trucks and Jeeps. And I used to help him design different ones, and then this will go back a while back too, back when Bo Bonds just started Superlift, and then Brett ended up getting it, as things went through Superlift's, change of events. I always helped them do a lot of the different bracketry and stuff like that. I enjoyed doing it. I like the challenge. I like building the parts and that type of stuff. And so that kind of got me, in the back of my mind, wheels were already turning what I wanted to do down the road. And so I'm thinking in probably 84, I actually really jumped in with both feet, and I actually had a place in Birmingham, and I actually opened a store in Chattanooga.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I didn't know how big a challenge that was going to be. And it was a tough one, and people talk about there needs to be two of you. I needed 10 of me. And but it was very good. Learned a lot. It helped us grow a lot, and it also got us at that point of we started putting some different parts together that were going to be our own parts. And we ended up leaving Chattanooga, coming back to Alabama, and just shutting that place down. It was too hard on me. I couldn't get the management people I needed, and at that time, and so we just decided that if I wanted to stay married and everything, I better get everything and just keep with the one business spot and do keep that going.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I still work long days and too many days, but it was. I got to the point where there was weeks I didn't even, I didn't hardly see my family, and I had my wife, and then I had a 2-year-old at that time. So, she informed me that something needed to change, and at least I was smart enough to realize I had to make some changes.
So one of the questions that I was asked to ask you was how did you get? Let's see, what's the way to ask this? Datsun pickups. That back then they weren't Nissan; it was Datsun. Were you were taking 2-wheel drive trucks and converting them into 4? Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, that is correct.
What was the process you used on that?
Well, at that time we started off with a kit that we got from Low Manufacturing, and we would actually go into car dealerships and getting brand new 2-wheel drive trucks and bringing them back, and we were doing multiple ones. We'd do 3 or 4 of them at a time, and we would take the Low Manufacturing kits, which he had a bracket kit, which had hangers and springs. He had worked out all the details of what it took. Well, I got a call from him one day, and he decided to go full-time racing. So I actually took I took all the moving parts of his stuff, and then that's where a lot of the fabrication and the design work started coming out. I ended up having to make all these parts and market them and do everything my own self. And that was something new.
Okay.
And I like the challenge part of it, because that's what I wanted to do.
And with the racing going to the West Coast to race, were you racing just like California, Arizona, and Nevada, or were you going down into Baja as well?
We did go down into Baja. Spencer ended up eventually getting a major sponsor deal through Nissan, and once that hit, yes, we started going, basically doing all the score, the high desert, all those, and we even started doing some SCCA racing, and and most of that was on the East Coast, so we kind of actually used my shop as a headquarters of a little bit of that.
Okay. So going from Alabama to the West Coast at that time, and we're talking the 80s, the roads were not like they are now. So knowing, I travel back and forth across the country a lot with putting on events, but I can't imagine what that was like to take a race team to the West Coast and back and forth so often. Was that that must have taken some travel time?
Oh, it did. It was, it's definitely a lot different than the way things are done now. The part of getting ready was always, action-packed and, never enough time getting everything done, and then you load it up, and then, it was just go till you got there. We did have places that a lot of times we finished a race, we would leave the rig in certain areas, and then, at times, which it still made it was difficult, a lot more difficult back then to fly back and forth. And then we would do that, and I'm still trying to keep things going at the shop as well. But it was, it just, I don't know. We just made it work. Back then, it was just, you did it, and it's just the way it was going to be, and you made it happen.
Yeah, just put your nose to the grindstone, basically.
Yes.
So then, what were you using for like transfer cases to go from 2 to 4-wheel drive?
We were using brand new Model 30 front ends that we were getting from Dana. We Model 20 transfer cases, brand new from Dana.
Okay. And then,
so it was basically, these were little trucks. It was a Jeep, as far as I was concerned. It was just the Jeep on it. We knew the parts were all proven, and Yeah, it was just like a, it was just like a Jeep, except it just had a pickup bed. Maybe we had a Gladiator before we knew it.
There you go. So then you took over basically the fab work and the building of parts from Lowe, and
That's correct.
And then that is that when you started Rusty's and got away from Birmingham?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is when that all kind of started coming together, and we started building, of course, all those parts. And as as far as I've always admired Jeeps, had Jeeps, and even when I had my trucks, I had pieces of Jeeps that some of them, would always, weren't my primary driver, but it was just something that everybody had to have a Jeep. It had to be always one sitting in the yard, and it was just cool. So that's what made me want one at first, and then just getting out and wheeling with it. When some of these old CJs I used to have, it was so much more easier to wheel than that big old Chevy truck that I had back then that I was trying to tear up every time I took it in the woods. But so we built shackles. Because we had a lot of that stuff for the conversion companies that we built. So we started building parts for the Jeeps as well. At that time, the Jeeps weren't as popular as I will say they are now by any means.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, your bread and butter lift kits back when we first started back in the in the 70s. We were selling the lift kits and the springs and the roll bars and all that. So that was all our bread and butter. And you might get one Jeep in every 200 Chevys. So that walked in the door, wanting something done. And but we figured we could start in the building some of the parts that needed to be built for Jeeps, because it was a small market, and we could just blend it in and add it. And thank God along came the XJ Cherokee.
I agree with that one.
And some people laughed at me at first, and they said you're driving your grandpa's car and stuff like that. And, but I wish they still made it now, and Jeep doesn't know what they're missing. But it came along, and there was a couple of people that jumped on the bandwagon and built suspension kits or lift kits, whatever you want at that time, what they were called. And there was nothing really built right or anything. And so at that time, our closest kit that we thought was one of the best ones out on the market was Black Diamond had got involved too, or Warren back then, and they came out with that Black Diamond suspension. We buying a lot of their parts, but the problem was they weren't complete, and we needed track bars, we needed different things like this, and that's kind of where we all got started.
Yeah, that Black Diamond, that was more of just like a big plate and the links, correct?
Yes. Yeah, they just got you enough to. Yeah, they had enough. Even their complete line was just enough to kind of get you started, but it was good quality stuff. It just wasn't. None of the kits were complete kits, as what we thought.
Right. And what was your first when you got into when you got your first XJ? We call them the grocery getters.
Yep.
I'm a fan of XJs. Everybody always talks about them being, like a soda can. You just crumple it and then throw it away and start over again. But they're becoming harder and harder to find. They
are.
The thing that I found with them is if you stiffen them up and stiffen that unibody up so it doesn't crack quite as easy, they last a lot longer. But I think that was part of their, and I don't know if it was the design element or not, but that rolling flex of the unibody was almost like the old CJ2As or the the original Jeeps, where your frame was part of the suspension.
And you're exactly right. Back then, I mean, the CJ, 2As, CJ6s, all those had the little small. I mean, the frames are puny, and somebody, I mean, some people may get mad at me for saying that, but there was not a lot to that frame.
Right.
And the way it was even put together, your cross members were put across, and they were actually riveted. There was nothing really bolted, so by the time you took that thing out and wheeled it a couple of times, those rivets had stretched out, and you could ramp it, and you could just see that those rivets coming loose, and but it helped the suspension as far as get flexing and riding and stuff like that. The whole, as you said, the frame and the suspension all went along with the road.
Right, it all worked together. Yeah,
it did. And then as the unibody, and it got a bad rap, from the time it came out and everything. But it did much the same way. I mean, it's one of the only vehicles that I've ever seen you'd be able to, go up on a really washed out road, and not only you can't open the doors because the body is flexing so much. I've actually had I've wheeled some and had the windows pop out of the rubber on the very back. So
I've done that, but it's normally with the help of a branch or a tree, a tree or a rock.
I totally understand that. But when that thing come along, and I mean, it was perfect at the time as it hit me in my personal life too, because I had two young boys, and I wanted to still, it all goes back to being outdoors. We were wanting to go outdoors. It was perfect size. There was plenty of room. I could put the whole family in there. We could go do what we wanted to do, and it was actually, I could throw a set of swampers on it back then. I think the first one I got, I put a set of 30 by 950 swampers on it, and I realized real quick, I had to have a bigger tire.
Right.
And, so we started, we would buy what was available and use that as a building platform. And then, like I said, we built, as far as Jeep parts, that was for, I would say, anything that we build parts for now mainly, was an adjustable track bar, because back then there was nothing. I mean, some of the first companies that built something that would cure the problem of the track bar built brackets, and we went ahead and, right off the bat, we built an adjustable track bar, and that's probably pretty much where it started. And we built other little pieces and parts for it. I started off saying I'd never build coil springs, I'd never build leaf springs, and now I have leaf springs in about a 10,000 square foot building. So
wow,
that covered the floor. Yeah. Just, it's amazing how many leaf springs that we have for just the Cherokee still, that they had built them since 2001, and it's pretty amazing how many parts still go out for them.
Right. I know that they're still a real popular. They're becoming hard to find, that the prices are going up on them so high.
They are. They are getting. You can still find a lot of these $250 to $800 ones that have been, used and abused. But the typical grocery getter that you still see wandering the road, I'm still amazed at all the events I go to and Jeep jamborees and stuff like that. And I get out on the road and I'm driving and I look and I'll see a stone stock Cherokee come by, and I say, golly, the thing's clean. Next thing you know, here comes another one, and you think, well, they're hadn't made them since 2001, and they're still out there. They're still that can be out there that can be built.
Right. A couple of years ago, in 2018, I found I found one that was super clean, interior, exterior. There was one dent in the small dent that can be popped out real easy in the driver's side front fender, and we just we took that to Novak for a V8 swap, and now we're going to finish building it out the rest of the way. But you know,
Awesome.
it was great finding one. You know, especially one without
Yeah.
a sunroof. I
And I don't remember the last time I saw you, but one of the last times I saw you, we were at not Expo. What did they call? Well, we were on the West Coast. One of the expos, and you were sitting down there at the where you walk in for the we were all right there. We're at the motel. We were getting ready to leave. Me and Trent McGee were together, and you and actually Jesse was with you, and your wife, and I actually left that event and went with Trent and picked up a super driver that was just unbelievable that I was going to have shipped back to here. I got there and saw how nice it was. I ended up calling my wife and saying, I'm driving this thing back. and I ended up driving it from almost Phoenix all the way back home. And it drove as good as anything that you can buy now. And since then we've built it, and I actually sold it to a real good friend of mine. We put long arm kit and 35 or 37s on it. I can't even remember now. And he had a 16-year-old boy, wanted just a nice vehicle, and he still drives it to school every day now. But it was just amazing, how all that worked out. But yeah, it was, they're out there. You just got to find them.
Right. So let's talk about, let's spur off here a little bit. You talked about having, picking up Jeeps and trucks and that kind of stuff, kind of projects. I understand that you have a building where projects go to die.
Oh, man.
You know who I've been talking to then.
I know exactly who you've been talking to. I sure hope they don't die there. I've got a lot of them that are finished products that are they're still there. Yeah. Golly, I got so many of them. I got future products. I got one building that's it's about 15,000 square feet, I guess, and it's got projects and toys in it, and I've got most every full build that we ever did within on Extreme 4x4. I have a lot of those. I actually have one of Spencer Lowe's one of his first desert race vehicles. It is actually put together and finished, and actually I took it. 2 years ago we lost Spencer. He was actually at King of Hammers, and actually had an aneurysm there and passed away.
Oh wow!
And yeah, and so with the help of a lot of people, we actually took that vehicle and put it back together. This year he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I had that vehicle there, which was really cool.
Right, I saw
and,
that.
Yeah, so I have that. I have my son's first Cherokee that we built for him. I still have it. He's 40 now, right at 40 years old, and I still have it. I have a couple other race vehicles, pieces and parts. I have a lot of pieces and parts of vehicles too. Like I said, a lot of them are future projects. I've got a couple of Willises, and like I said, there's a handful of Cherokees in there, and there's just it's a lot of Jeeps.
Excellent.
And I'm a big fan of LJs, and I always forget about my LJs because they're just down one little section, but I actually have 4 of those. I have one that is an 05 model that still only has 519 miles on it.
What? You're kidding me.
Yep.
You better put
Nope,
that under
I sure
guard.
do. I know. I don't tell a lot of people that, but I guess I told the world now. And
Well, a few people.
but I bought the thing back, brand new, and we brought it back. We did a bunch of suspension stuff that was kind of a little bit odd than the norm, and we actually loaded it up in the back of one of the trailers, and we took it to Jeep Beach, showed it. No, I apologize. We actually took it to Moab first, to Jeep Easter Safari, showed it and wheeled it and did everything. We brought it back. We took it to Jeep Beach, did the same, and I actually parked it, removed all the suspension stuff, and it has not moved since. And that was what, in 05 or 06.
Wow.
So, yeah, I still have that one. I mean, it's it looks. You look inside, it's brand new.
You don't have that that Chevy pickup anymore, do you?
I do not have it.
Okay.
I do not have. There's a couple of things I don't have that I wouldn't mind having. I'd love to have it. And actually, I got into running little single seat buggies down on. They had us like a little course that our association out of Georgia and Florida. And, I mean, I did this when I was in high school, and just piddling a little bit. But I don't have the car that I built for that. I wish I had that. I've looked, and I've gone through pastures and junkyards and everything, but I can't find it.
So the project vehicles, did you use those for product development? Is that?
Some of them we do now, and me and my wife's got a little deal. If you can't have too many Jeeps, you can't have too many diamonds. So, and she's got her condo at the beach, so she's happy. And so I buy usually when we start. Well, it's just, I'm going to say, like the JK even. We'll go back that far. And just with the JK, I mean, we have to have vehicles for product development. If we don't have those vehicles that we can bring one in and pull it all apart and, do everything we want to do with it, I mean, we have nothing to start off with.
Right.
We've got to do that. And unfortunately, Jeep doesn't help like some of the manufacturers do, as far as, giving you wide open range, what info you can get. They want to sell, of course, Mopar brand stuff, but there's other, like I said, we figured out ways that, we can do this and get these vehicles, and it takes several. Well, then plus to do this, you can't put them together for the next weekend to go to a show or a Jeep Jamboree wheel or something like that. So I end up with almost sometimes it looks like a car dealership here. And, but we feel that it's the right way to do it. That way we got one group that usually works on the body armor and skid plates and protection, and then one we're working on development on suspension stuff. So that's kind of where, our lot of vehicles starts. And then my other problem is I don't like to sell stuff. So I usually accumulate, a lot of vehicles.
Are you saying you're a hoarder?
I am a hoarder of vehicles.
Okay.
I do like vehicles, and I don't think you can have too many. And the only thing bad is when it comes tag buying time.
True enough. So,
but and we've done that we did that with the JL as soon as we could get our hands on a JL. I mean, it had 43 miles. My wife drove it from Birmingham to here. We pulled it in, we put it on the rack, and it was totally disassembled.
Wow. And then kind of reverse engineered for the stuff that you build.
Yes, sir.
And so somebody could go to the Rusty's website and with a JL or a JK or TJ, XJs, CJs, and say, okay, I'm going to build my whole vehicle from the Rusty's catalog. Is that correct?
You could. Yes, sir, you could. You could go all the way from bumpers to armor to skids to suspension, and even a set of, lights and tires and wheels. And, we could put it on a pallet and ship it to you.
Wow. So I would typically at this point ask, how many SKUs do you think you have? But I can't even imagine how many SKUs you have for all the different models that are out there.
I can tell you pretty close, because we're actually we're real close. We were actually hoping for January 1 on a new website to be launched, but as COVID's kind of drug everything out, it's even drug it out a little bit. So we've been more worried about getting parts out on time. So we're, I think, 17,000 and some odd numbers.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's huge.
So
it's scary to think about.
Yeah, it is. And most of those SKUs are still active, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're still selling parts on them. Wow.
Yes, sir. Now, there are some parts that are, not the Rusty's brand. We have stuck with. We've been a long time, fan and user, of Warren winches, and so of course we got all theirs. I've had a relationship with KC Lights, and of course they're all on there, and we sell a lot of the OEM parts through, like Crown Automotive, that makes OEM, just where if you needed a blower motor for a Cherokee, we would have that, or a CJ, we would have that.
Right, so they're not all product that you've developed. When you said tires and rims,
No.
I figured that was the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah,
But
not all of them are the Rusty brand part. As far as the Rusty's brand parts, I think there is 5,200, approximately somewhere in there in that numbers.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a third, a little less than a third. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, it's still an awful lot of parts.
So the next question I have is, did you ever consider going someplace besides Alabama?
Oh, yes, I have. Numerous times.
Okay. And what was the reason behind the possible relocation?
It goes back to the love of the outdoors. I know you travel the country a lot as well.
Yes.
And another racer brought me to the area. Don Adams used to run all the Jeep CJs, and he lived in North Rock, Colorado. I went to Salida. I didn't want to leave. And I tried my best to figure out a way to actually do manufacturing there. And finally one day my dad went with me out there, and and he says, son, do you take a big look at everything. You see how it's growing. As much as it is now, it's going to grow more. Can you do it here? And and I told him, no, you can't. I couldn't, and I don't think anybody could. And so that's when I realized. After we stayed there a couple more days. We looked around. We got back. I did more homework as far as getting out and trying to find the amount of steel that I would need. At that time, we didn't have the amount of laser. I don't even know if we had a laser then. So we were working on having to keep. We would have to have a supplier to do some of the laser work. We had press brakes and welders and robots and all that then, but and that's when that was just one of the times that but that was probably the most impact. That's when we really made a step here and built the facility what it's grown into now.
Right. When my wife and I stopped and visited you, and this was like 6 years ago or so. It was right around the time we were doing one of our events in Dayton, Tennessee, I believe. And I was absolutely amazed at the facility that you have. And you were showing me lots or areas and going, okay, well, yeah, we're going to put another building over here and over here. And I was absolutely amazed. And you had the property, you had the space. It must be difficult for sourcing employees just because you're not,
Well,
you're kind of out from the city center area, obviously.
right, and when I grew up in a rural area, and it seemed like then, and a lot of it is and people have changed and environments have changed and everything, and I didn't at that time when I was young. It seemed like everybody that was in school, they got you got a job and you learned something about what you like to do, and I thought maybe I'd been in the big city too long. And I thought it would still be that way. We never really had a problem with getting the amount of help that we needed, from racing to anything. Well, of course, racing, most people will work for free if they can go to the races with you. But and then we came here, and we didn't have problems at first. As things grew, that's kind of where unfortunately we've kind of maybe hit that growth area that we don't have the pull from now. A lot of people. It's the hard part's been you find people that in Birmingham, if you just got to go 10 miles into Birmingham, if you're going into the city, it takes you 40 minutes to get there. Just going into a big city, every big city's this way.
Right.
And we try to tell them now, okay, come this way 30 miles. In less time, you can still be here, and you don't have all that traffic to fight. And we've added a few that way, but it's been tough. I mean, right now we're at, before COVID, we're half of what we had then. Wow. And it's been hard on everybody here, and then it's even worse, as far as everybody needs to hire people now, and their people they're either not working or they're it's just finding people's tough.
Right. It's almost like people don't want to work.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very frustrating, because especially when you know some that could be doing what you're needing them to do, and they don't want to work. So
right.
It's I guess I've worked 7 days a week my whole life and don't know any different. And it's hard that slowing down thing is kind of, hard to figure out. But and now I'm 62 now, and everybody says, well, you're supposed to retire at 62. That 60, retire is a dirty word.
Well, I'm turning 64 in March, and we have finally figured out an exit strategy, at least from the competitions. We have a guy named Jake Good that's partnering with us this year, and he's going to phase in as we phase out over the next couple of years, and he'll end up taking over, which is, it's really good because the last thing I wanted to do is have the sport of rock crawling basically disappear. And so, that was good for us. What's your exit strategy that you're 62 and talking about that?
Well, I'm not talking about no retire or anything. I'm healthy. I work more hours probably than anybody else here. Of course, Tony is my oldest son. He's my right-hand man. We've had a couple of talks about it, and he says, it probably wouldn't be the same if you weren't here. I don't know. So I don't know. I guess there's little things like, I don't know if he wants me not to leave or what. I don't know. I just can't. I couldn't turn it off. I don't see me turning it off anytime soon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy it too much still. I try to do more. Well, we've always done a lot of events, shows, and that kind of stuff. I have probably left some of the shows and I'll leave them to some other people, but I've got very involved in the last 10 years with Jeep Jamboree and going and, traveling the country and going to doing the different trail rides and stuff. And me and my wife, we really enjoy that. We enjoy meeting the people. That's probably the biggest thing that we get to go out and meet the people as they're, riding out on the trail. And plus I'm getting to ride some of the trails I've wanted to always ride, but, never got to, just never had the time, or, it was too much work all the time. And now we're getting to do those, and I'm enjoying that a lot.
That's awesome. I think that the new Jeep enthusiast is somebody that's been looking for their own thing to do.
Right.
They've maybe worked most of their life where they've, they're living in that same area, same town, going back and forth to work. Weekends are spent with the kids. They're not really getting out and enjoying themselves as a couple. And I think that Jamboree, the Jeep Jamborees, have allowed those people to explore along with the purchase of buying a Jeep. And I think that really started to flourish with the JKs.
Oh, I totally agree. It has. And of course our industry, in 40-something years, I've seen it change so much, and as well as I know you have, and then and we're going through seems like another period of change as we come into the JL and the Gladiator. The JK, of course, started a lot of new people that would have never bought a CJ or even a TJ, and maybe they owned a Grand Cherokee, just for a driver, but now they're buying these vehicles, and you've got a lot of people that are gray-headed or with no hair, and then you've got we go to some of these jamborees, and then you got kids. I won't say you got kids, but you got very young adults that have kids that are trying to, they're just wanting to be out. They're wanting to be out in the outdoors.
Right.
And then as far as our business, it's weird because we have those guys that are from all different ages now. We got kids that are buying, their first vehicle, and they're wanting to fix it up best they can. And then, you got a guy that's fixed, he just retired, and he's ready to go out and have, a good time and do the things he's never been able to do.
Right. What I found is the younger generation wants, instead of, they want experiences.
Yes.
Where maybe, and as I put myself in this classification as a baby boomer, that we were brought up, by our parents to have a job, keep that job, and then work really hard so that when you do retire, you have time. The kids that we've raised are more, and I'm saying as a whole, not individually, but as a whole, are more experience driven and I don't know if it's because we didn't, as a general age group, didn't provide enough experience for them. I know I tried to, but my kids are quite a bit like me, but they're as a whole, they're experience. They want to experience things, not so much maybe buy a bunch of stuff, but they want to experience. They want to grow up really fast.
Yes, yeah, I agree. They do want to experience more, and I think right now when COVID hit, anything that was outdoorsy, whether it was boating, fishing, camping, hunting, four-wheeling, whatever, and most of the time all those usually can involve a Jeep or whatever, if they're wanting to do one of those things. and and like Jeeps are cool. Like I said, they go down there, if they just want one because it's cool. And then they can go do all these different things that are outdoors. And like I said, I do too. I as far as the younger, I mean, I'm not saying younger. I mean, my son. I mean, I don't want him, and he works. He probably don't work as many hours as I do, but he works too many. And I probably wish I'd have worked less and done a few more things with him. And so he's doing those things with my grandson, and and of course I promote that. I want him to do that, and but it's the same way. They I think you're exactly right there. I think they want to go out. Okay, they've seen Moab. I got to go experience. If they don't do nothing but fly out there, rent a Jeep, and they're wide-eyed the whole time. They're just you see. I mean, we see them out there when we're out there riding. You can tell the ones that are green that this is their first trip. They just they're so excited they can't see straight.
Yeah, true enough. So where do you see Rusty's in the future?
Well, when the JL, the noise of all that, of course, they kept it very tight-lipped, what we were going to get and all that, and everybody, but when we got one, we jumped on it. We got a little lazy maybe with the JK, or we just, I think we were just so busy with the TJ and the XJ that, we just didn't jump on the JK as quick as we probably should have, as far as, everything for it at first. And so, but with the JL, we were ready. We jumped on it. We had all our suppliers that we were going to get our products from. We had them on go, and we had block rails, we had bumpers, we had skid plates. We had everything ready to go, and we've never had anything that's come close to selling anywhere close to the amount of parts that we sell for Cherokees. And this JL and this new Gladiator is probably bumping a little bit more right now.
Wow.
Yeah, we haven't been known for that Wrangler, part supplier, but now if we can just get those people to look at our website, they see what we offer for it, and everything's built here. That's the best thing about it. I mean, we're building everything in house. All the skid plates, all the suspension components. Now, of course, shocks, coil springs. I don't have a foundry back here where I'm doing leaf springs and stuff, or coil springs. But that's one thing that I think my 40 plus years in the industry, we've gone to some very big reputable companies that most people don't realize they build parts for other people. And we went on, when the JL came in, we went to IBOC, and IBOC's building our coil springs, and they're building our shock absorbers right now.
Okay.
And it's something that we've, they don't keep it quiet, we don't keep it quiet. And actually it's done so well that the president of IBOC decided they're not going to sell a Jeep line. They developed their own Jeep line, and they're actually going to drop it and just supply us.
Oh, very good.
And yeah, so we're happy with what they're doing, and as well as around the racing industry, it ensures that it's one of the highest quality parts you can get.
Right. Yep.
And and then, like I said, all of our stuff being built here, not imported from who knows where, and that means a lot. And like I said, I don't remember. You said 06 you were here.
No, it's been 6 years or so. So it was probably closer
6 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, it was probably right around 14 or 15.
Okay. Yeah, we've probably added a couple of buildings since then, and.
I remember that.
Yeah, I know we're up to 2 lasers and a tube laser now, and and then we're adding more. It's right now the biggest thing now we're adding has been robots, and that's just because of less people. We're putting more robots in place.
For welding?
Most of it's all welding.
Right.
And we will soon have one on a press brake, that'll actually be able to pick up a piece of metal, bend the metal, and put it in a stack.
Okay. That makes sense. I talked to somebody else one time, and they said the nice thing about the robot welding is that it doesn't matter if it's Monday morning or Friday night. They're always going to weld the same.
That's right. They do.
It's not that whole thing of like, oh, that car must have been built on a Monday morning or a Friday night. The guy was, hungover or from the weekend or looking forward to getting off. So yeah, the robots take care of that and give you consistent weld each time.
Yeah, you do. And it even lets you know if there is some human input into it, but it even lets you know if that's wrong. So, it's been something we've been pretty proud to add to our line of equipment, and like I said, it's making the difference in us keeping caught up with the needs that we have.
So how has your supply of steel been through this COVID?
It's been tough.
Yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah, it's been tough. Flat sheets. We would order basically 2 tractor trailers, which ends up being about 80,000 pounds, or be 40,000 pounds per truck is when they bring a full load of sheets to you. And we would order 80,000 pounds, which you expecting 2 trucks to roll in, and 1 truck would roll in, and it'd have 10 or 12,000 pounds on it.
Ooh.
And we can cut 10,000 pounds in a couple of days. And, tubing wasn't as bad at first, but then we seem to have been having an up and down time with some tubing right now. We bumped all our orders, but we're getting less than what we order. Our last big challenge, it's the craziest thing in the world, was nuts and bolts.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we can build all these parts, but if you don't have anything to put them together with, that's kind of been the last, I would say the last 3 months. Steel's still a problem, but it's not been as bad. But nuts and bolts has been just horrible. And I don't know if all these, you get all these USA bolts and stuff. Of course, we try to supply or to source everything as far as quality made in U.S. bolt and washers and all that. Unfortunately, it gets to a point where if they can't get them, they go elsewhere. And I don't know if they're all sitting out on these boats out in the water, or where all our bolts are.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. The supply chain issues have been crazy. I was looking at, trying to analyze personally what was going to happen in the future. And I know that there was some people that really stocked up and had a lot of raw product, the steel, the bolts, the tube, and could, so when that supply issue hit its peak, they were still fine and building. And then there was others that, that were ordering from week to week instead of, having a lot of inventory. I think one of the trends that we'll see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that companies, because of the supply chain issues, as soon as it's available, people are going to start carrying more inventory of their different SKUs. So instead of, somebody orders a bumper today, I can build it this week and send it out at the end of the week. They're going to actually have bumpers on the shelf so in case they get caught with their pants down again, that's not going to, that won't be an issue. Do you see that?
Right. Oh yeah, I definitely see that. And we've always tried to to do that, or always have a little bit more. And I learned that from back in the the 80s through the Carter era when interest rate on credit cards. People don't realize that the interest rate on credit cards back then were 20%.
Right.
And stuff like that. That was probably the worst times I've ever seen it. Period. And then we had the 07, 08, and that was I say a supply problem, but it was a problem that people didn't have. They didn't have parts, or they ran out very quick. Luckily, spring shocks, steel, it doesn't go bad. So we've always kept a good supply. And we did very good through the first 6 to 9 months of the COVID mess. But then, we, as other companies were out of things, and they would check with us, or, they would refer them to, or whatever, our sales skyrocketed, of course, but, all that supply got eat up real quick.
Right.
So it was definitely a boomer for business, and it still is. I mean, we're still selling. We're still probably selling at this. If you look back before pre-COVID, our sales are double what they were then, and we're doing it with half the amount of people. But that's been the struggle part right there.
Right.
And it's not fun when you work 7 days a week all day long, but it's got to be done. It's no different back when we were doing all the racing, and you had to be at a race in 48 hours, and it takes 49 hours to get there, and you just make it happen.
Right. So let's talk about some of the people in the industry that you've become really tight friends with. I know that one of the guys, and I'd like to find out where you became close with him. Impact Racing.
Robbie Beers.
Yes. I met Robbie the first time standing at the top of Potato Salad Hill.
Of where?
In Moab at Potato Salad Hill.
Okay.
And this was way back, and early 2000s, I believe, very early, and didn't know anybody else that was standing there, and just started talking to this guy and found out what he did, and we became friends then. How long have you known Robbie?
Probably somewhere right around, I knew of him, but as far as probably in that period of time, it's probably somewhere right in there is where I did see him more often and talk to him more often. And basically, that was probably Jeep Easter Safari. He was there every year, or he tried to be there every year. I mean, he's a very busy man. We were selling their products. Well, at that time, he owned Mastercraft seats, and if you needed a race seat or if you needed a Jeep seat, that's where you went. And I believed that very first car that I was talking about that I couldn't find, it had a Mastercraft seat in it, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to find it. And we just, I have a problem a lot of times if I need to place an order. I'd like to keep up. I'm gonna call, and instead of emailing it in to somebody, I'm gonna pick up the phone and I'm gonna call him and say, I need this, but then I sit there and shoot the breeze with him for a while. And more and more we did that, our relationship getting closer and closer. And so one year he was not going to be able to go to Moab and do a couple other shows. So he says, will you go and help represent us and Rusty's? And so we did that. And I think we sold more than they'd ever sold. And so eventually he got he got involved with Impact and bought Impact. And as a manufacturer, we started doing, he asked us, he said, can you do these little pieces here? Can you do these little pieces? And so next thing I knew, we were doing little pieces for the helmets on, the different latches and different things like that we were doing. And next thing I know, he's sending me drawings for the seats and stuff like this. And so a lot of people don't know this about us, but we do. So of course we started building a lot of the steel products for Mastercraft and Impact. So our relationship became very strong, and he started coming down here to oversee, check parts and stuff like that. And when he would do that, we'd go to an event. And, we went to one of Mail's event in Texas and just started wheeling and just having a good time. Well, then, he started inviting me we'd go to PRI. He would say, don't get your room, you can just come stay at the house, because he had a house in Indy, and he also had a house in Southern California, San Diego. We would go up there and, stay with him. And then I started going to some of the race events with him. Of course, they going from NASCAR races to the desert races, King of the Hammer, anything. I mean, Impact was for anything that was racing, and much like Mastercraft was. Then we got to, like I said, even growing more with what our needs, or his needs, were for parts. And he sold that company, he sold Impact, and he sold Mastercraft, and we still get to build parts for them now. And so I thought, okay, now me and Robbie's going to be able to go racing. He's going to have, he's got time. He's going to retire. He'll come back here. We'll go wheeling. We'll go do things together. He's like me. The word retire was not a very good word for him.
Right.
And since and as well as he's bought Jimco now.
Yep.
That just that came in for another great place for us. Is we pretty much, if there's a metal need, we do a lot of the work for him, and we've learned a lot together. As far as on a lot of the suspension needs, and especially with these newer vehicles, we've been able to do a lot of things. And then we use also, he don't mind taking one of our parts and figuring out a way to put it on his truck, and we'll see if we can beat the crap out of it and see how it works out before anything goes public sale. So it's and now I don't get to talk to him. I don't talk to him every couple of days, but we have a thing now every Saturday morning. We usually talk, and it ends up, my wife will say, it's an hour and a half conversation. And, it just depends on where I'm at. I still hunt, and this winter's been a little, because of the time difference. Sometimes he catches me as I'm out of the woods. Sometimes I'll be still sitting in the tree stand, and I look down there and I feel the phone vibrate, and it's Robbie. So usually that's when my hunting stops. I just sit there and talk to him from the tree, and he gets a good kick out of that.
And another friend of yours is Mark with Crown, correct?
Yes, Mark Consiglio.
Yep.
Yeah, super good guy. He just, Mark's something else. Mark, just doing business with him, got to be friends, and then of course, as we were going to so many shows, he would be on one booth, his booth would be way down, and ours. I said, why don't we put these booths together? Let's start showing together, and that just increased our friendship hugely. And because we just saw everybody, and we ate breakfast together or donuts at the show, and then saw each other all day, and then we started going. We've got Well, I haven't been to his place in Boston. I haven't been up there, but my son Tony's actually gone to his place in New Hampshire, and they went up there snowmobiling. And I still have yet to do that, which I got to go do that. But we go south. He's got a place down close to Fort Lauderdale, and so we hadn't seen him lately, but just because of all the COVID crap. But before then, we spent a lot of time together, and fortunately, he was one that, or unfortunately, he got sick with the big cancer deal, and he pulled through that, and we did a lot of praying, and he's healthy now, he's doing good, and that stuff scares you to death because you just you don't want one of your friends to go nowhere.
No, true. Yeah, I saw Mark at SEMA, and he looked in pretty good shape and was doing business.
Oh yeah. Like I said, he goes to the doctor, gets checked, but he's 100% healthy now, and doing good. And like I said, now it just working on the national sales manager at Crown. That's a big job. And then like I said, he's just trying to make sure everything goes good while we're going through all this supply chain problems, and without pulling his hair out. He's got some hair to pull on. So
yeah.
But yeah, I've actually talked to him more in the last couple of weeks than I have pretty much the last year, and it's been good to talk to him.
And then, of course, the other friend is Jim Horn.
Jim just texted me 2 seconds ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just saw his name pop up, and oh man, that guy. I tell you, if anything else, the Jeep Jamboree has been great as far as for us to be able to go out and talk to customers and everything, and wouldn't take nothing for the what we've done with them and together and everything. I mean, Pierce is a great guy, but meeting him and his wife is one of the high things out of that place. I mean, we went to one of them. They were there. I mean, we all, as far as friends, we hit it off good. I mean, and saw him as much as we could, and they hauled my Jeep around for a couple of years, and he knew. I told him, I said, you treat it like it was your own. I mean it.
Oh man, that's dangerous.
Videos. I know it's very dangerous, and I knew it was because I knew his passion for off-roading and racing and stuff like that. But he took it out. I just asked him, I need pictures for the Facebook, Instagram, and videos, and he did just that. I did have one little breakage, but I'm not blaming it on him. I think it was actually from a weekend where I'd taken the Jeep we went to a ranch in Orlando, Texas, and this rock there, I believe, has more traction ability than Moab.
Right.
And we actually twisted the lug nuts.
Wow.
But I've never seen I've seen it happen on a drag car, but never on an off-road vehicle. But this thing literally twisted the lug nuts. But I'm not going to blame that on him, and not totally.
Not totally.
But yeah, and then I think he just decided to make a change in his career, and he wanted to get away from Jeep Jamboree and the traveling, and unfortunately his wife had gotten breast cancer, and she's 100% healthy now and doing great, and I miss her every day that I don't see her. And so he called me one day and he said, I need something. I need to go get a job. And I said, come on. And well, I take that back. I got a text and he said, are you going to be there this weekend? And I said, yeah. And he says, can you pick me up at the airport at 9:00 tonight? I said, and then I called him. I said, tonight? And he says, yeah. He said, I'm standing at the airport coming to Birmingham right now. He
Wow.
said, I need a job.
There you go.
And I said, okay, come on. And so the last year or so, till he recently kind of thought he was going to end up staying here for a while. He was going to probably do his own thing here and work with us, and but he decided to go back to Moab. He had his Jeep rental business in Moab. Decided to go back there and build project vehicles for people. And from what I understood a couple of weeks ago, they were in a new house and they were working on. It wouldn't be long. They were going to be working on a new building. And so, like I said, I don't know what the phone call was for just about a few minutes ago, but
probably asking how we're doing, because I gleaned him for a lot of the information.
Yeah, great guy. I tell you, and I will say something about all four of us that me, Robbie Pierce, especially Jim Horn. Mark had something to get his eyes open when he found out he was sick. He realized then he had to enjoy away from business a little bit more than we have. But we all work way too damn much, and but we enjoy it. And I mean, we sit out here and we get here would get here. I get here about 4:30 every morning. Jim would get here about 7, but we may work till midnight. It may be 1. Next thing you know, we look over there and the sun's coming up.
Wow.
And, like I said, it just goes back to whatever it took to get it done.
Right.
And he couldn't have come at a better time. And, he thanks me all the time, and I tell him thanks, and he said, "You don't owe me things." I do. I mean, he's helped me tremendously, and if you don't know Jim Horn, and I know you do, I mean, the guy's a blast to be around. I don't care where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're at a concert, if you're sitting out there working on a vehicle or out wheeling. The guy is a trip.
Yes.
And, he is a super good guy.
Well, the only other thing that he wanted me to remind you is that you need to order some battery tenders for those project vehicles instead of buying batteries all the time.
Yeah, my interstate battery guy loves me. He is my neighbor. He's my neighbor as well, but he does love me, and Jim was just about right. It seems like every time we would want to get one of the older vehicles out, of course the batteries would be dead, and and then I was at an event somewhere, and he walks in the building. He smells battery acid. Thank goodness he's smart enough to think, okay, something shorted out. So he starts looking around one of our smaller motorhomes. The battery was just sitting over there boiling.
Oh.
I don't know if a plate stuck or whatever, and he calls me up. What do you do? I said, I'm undoing it. And I said, well, okay, that's the only thing I know to do. Just undo it, and we'll figure it out when I get back. And like I said, I could go on an event somewhere, and he would be here working. He'd work side by side with my son Tony, and everybody around here got along with him. He's just, and that same way at the Jeep Jamborees. The guy, everybody gets along with him. He's funny. I mean, he's hilarious, and the guy is super talented as far as what he can do, and even what he can do off road. I had somebody ask me in something similar to this one time, who would I want to take with me as far as, wheeling, if I had somebody. And I said, I got 3 guys. And Jim Horn was one. My son was the other one. And I have a very, very good friend that I met at a Jeep Jamboree, Jorge. He's a retired school teacher, and he actually lives in Puerto Rico and does a Jeep tour company now.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I would go anywhere in the world with those guys and let them tell me where that. If they said that we could make it, there wouldn't be no hesitation. I'd gas it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. But Jim's he's a special person, that's for sure.
So, is there anything that we haven't talked about that that you think you'd like to share?
Probably the only other thing I'd mention is, I've been doing this. I think it's 45 years, and then in just a few days I'll be married 42 years.
Congratulations!
So probably one of this. I would have probably never have this if it wasn't for her. I'd be a broke down racer on the West Coast somewhere if it wasn't for her. So, but no, it's all. I mean, we've worked a lot, and we built it in. I mean, I think now square footage. The insurance guy came out and busted me because he said, you told me you didn't have this, but you got this much. I think we're right at 70,000 square feet now.
Wow.
We could use more. I mean, it's full, and we could use more. And we're just, we're looking at that in the process now. But I don't know. We've even looked at having a building away from here that we can actually display some vehicles that'll be for sale. That's kind of something that we're looking at right now. Building the vehicles where a guy can just walk in, it's ready to go, and he can drive it out and go straight to a Jeep Jamboree, or go out and go to Idaho and go camping with his family or whatever. So that's something we're kind of looking at now.
That's cool. Turnkey vehicles. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's since, like I said, it's a one-stop shop anyhow, and then you'd be able to come out here and just, there's people now that, I don't know where to start. Well, they can come here and kind of pick their, what vehicle they want, and if we don't have what they want, we can build it for them. And this is kind of something my son has done and worked on, and so we've looked at. We just got to put a few more pieces of the puzzle.
Excellent. Well, Rusty, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on Conversations with Big Rich and sharing your life of not giving up and putting everything you have into what you do. That's one thing that I've heard from a number of people about you is that, you're like the Energizer Bunny.
I do definitely work a lot of hours. I don't sleep much, but like I said, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. I'm like I said, there's been plenty of people come in here and say, let us write you a check, and I usually just run them off and tell them I'm not interested without even listening to see what they have to say. Like I said, the Jeep deal. People talk about the lifestyle, and it is a lifestyle. And we've definitely lived it. We've lived it for 40-something years, still living it and still enjoying it.
And I think the greatest thing about that Jeep lifestyle is the people you get to meet along the way.
Oh, it is. And now I'm appreciating that more. And I think what, just you mentioned those three people, and those three people mean a lot to me. And we've met so many other ones. And then we've got other friends. Well, like I said, I mentioned Jorge, that we met him at a Jeep Jamboree in Texas 3 or 4 years ago. And, I love him to death. And we see him once a year. He'll actually fly in from Puerto Rico to do one of the Texas Jamborees. But I keep up with him on Facebook and everything. And I wish I could see him every week. I've even tried to hire him. But he's got a good deal going now, and he's got a pretty woman down there he lives with, and I can't match that. So,
No.
Meeting those people and building those relationships. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, Rusty, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for your patience when we're getting this thing scheduled.
Oh, no worries. That's how our lifestyle is. It's everybody that I try to get, in this conversation is busy, and it's
They are.
it's all part of the love of off-road that keeps us busy.
It is.
So anyway, thank you
It's
very
definitely,
much. And
Thank you, and you need to come back by. Don't make it 6 years.
No, in fact, you know what? I've decided through this conversation that when we come back to do our event there, I think it's in July, I'm going to give you a call ahead of time and we'll swing through and say hello.
That'll be great. Look forward to it.
All right. Rusty, thank you very much and take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.